What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 22 of season 1 of Delicious in Dungeon. We'll be going full spoilers ahead, so hopefully you've watched this episode. And we'll do a real quick recap. So the whole party is still at that weird village with the old villagers who have been basically turned immortal and are just kind of chilling. They find out through, I forgot her name, but kind of the village elder, that the Mad Mage's name is Thistle, and they go a long way back with the villagers and the kingdom and the king, and basically at some point they just became power hungry, obsessed with power, turned the villagers immortal, and now are just kind of running the dungeon. And when Laios says that he wants to meet with the mage and talk with them, he's told that basically he's not going to want that, but also because things are happening in the dungeon, Thistle's watching and is going to be showing up probably at some point anyway. So they end up going back to the dungeon, and while they're kind of getting their bearings on where to go, what was it? Laios and Marcel see a silhouette in the shadows that they think is, oh my god, what's her name? Fallon, thank you. And they want to pursue that, but they also are trying to speculate maybe it could be something else, including a griffin, which triggers Senshi in a way that we haven't really seen before. He starts getting weirded out, trying to distract everybody from wanting to follow the tracks that they found by pointing at some mushrooms that he says they should eat. They say it's poisonous, so obviously he's just kind of buying time. As they start progressing a little bit and talking about Griffin and what they're like, all that stuff, an actual Griffin shows up and attacks, and Senshi freaks out, runs off while they're getting ready to fight with this thing, and it snatches him up, which is probably the worst scenario for him, given that he's the one that's freaked out by this. And takes him up to a nest, and they got to figure out how to get Senshi back. He doesn't have a weapon up there. He's defenseless, and they're thinking the worst is going to happen if they don't act accordingly. So, yeah, they end up coming up with a plan, a really crazy one, to create familiars, 3 of them, out of all the caloric resources that they have. And, they share senses with Marcel, who makes them. They craft one to like a bird. It flies up there. Marcel,
like a bird-shaped cookie, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a very low quality, weird thing. Flies up there. Marcel is able to see what it sees, but has to put a blindfold on because she's seeing what she sees and feels and what it sees and feels. So they pursue it as it's flying above them, and ends up locating Senshi in a nest, but the Griffin takes it out. The Griffin acts very much like a cat in this episode. So they concoct a second shape for the second familiar. They send it up there. It does a little better, but it ends up getting taken out. I think that one was made by Laios, right?
Yeah, it was meant to look like a little wyvern.
Yeah, he made something like way more detailed. And then the third one, when they're trying to brainstorm how to do this, Laios goes crazy and makes like his ultimate monster that's a fire and ice breathing dragon that he's going insane about. Marcel comes up with the idea, though, that they don't need something that's going to be strong, because obviously it's not going to be able to fight the Griffin. They need something that's going to be fast, that the Griffin won't be able to keep up with. And she ends up concocting basically like a balloon animal, like hot dog thing with wings.
Yeah, worm with a lot of wings.
Yeah, and it's funny too, as she's using these, she's like acting out what's happening, and while the worm thing is flying, she's on the ground flopping, doing the worm. So it ends up, surprisingly, as Senshi is making his way down, because the second one flew a rope up to him, flying through and piercing the Griffin's wing, knocking to the ground, and Laios quickly just runs up and murders it, which is pretty wild.
No hesitation.
Gave me some Dragon's Dogma 2 flashbacks. So he dispatched the shit out of it. It was kind of impressive. So they get Senshi back. He's not quite 100% after the situation. Oh, also something worth mentioning earlier, before they even had pursued Senshi, when they're trying to figure things out, they start questioning how much they even know about Senshi. They realize that they never asked them a whole lot of personal questions. They don't know where he came from, why he has all this advanced metal equipment, and if he has ever even left this dungeon or where he even came from.
Yeah, specifically at one point he had mentioned that he had been in there for 10 years, and the dungeon, to their knowledge, was only 6 years old. So
yeah. So that's kind of weird. So anyway, that all leads up to the end of this episode, where basically, because Laios at one point said we can all reintroduce ourselves once we get Senshi back, Chilchuk reintroduces himself to Senshi while he's feeling kind of weird and out of his normal spirit, saying that he has a wife and kids, which is interesting. He comes from the Northeast somewhere, and I don't know if he really shared too much. He just makes money going in dungeons, being a translator, doing the trap thing that he does, all that kind of stuff. So, big reveal, though, is he has a family, which is weird. Even Marcel went crazy with the eyes. And then asks Senshi about himself. Senshi reveals that he is from Deep Rock Galactic. He's rock and stone. He was a miner with a group of other miners, and while they were excavating mines for what were they looking for? Artifacts?
Yeah, ancient artifacts.
They came upon a giant golden dungeon, and he says that that's this dungeon that they're in, and then the episode ends. So we're getting some pretty good backstory on these characters we've been spending so much time with during this, entertaining, crazy scenario with the Griffin. So what do we think of the episode?
I quite like this episode. It had, honestly, a little bit of everything.
Yep.
The resolution basically in the town, and obviously, one of the things I thought was neat was all the watchers were showing up, and so the town mayor or whoever they were, basically being they're starting to watch us. This will be here at some point. And it's just funny that as soon as they left and that they were talking to somebody, Thistle shows up. And I was like, who are you talking to?
Yeah, so they're they're already changing the dungeon up because of what's going on in it, but yeah, they're investigating now, basically.
Yeah. And then the entire sequence with the Griffin was very well animated. Not even just the action scenes, but even the goofy moments were crazy animated. Marcel's movements were super crazy, which was just a treat to watch. Also, the music in this episode was crazy multiple times.
It was all over the place. Yeah. It had a broader range of types of music than we typically get from an episode.
You had a really good I was really enjoying, and then the combat music, obviously, or the stressful situation music they were using also was super good. I also a little off topic of the episode, but I was looking at merchandise today and I saw a pre-order come up for Delicious and Dungeon Familiar, and I saw that bird-shaped thing.
Oh.
I was like, what the hell is that? And then it happened. I was like, oh.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, so...
that's the worst thing every time you send me anything for this show, because I'm a fan of this show now. I want to buy everything that you show me. I'm I need that, but I don't need a fucking museum of Delicious and Dungeon merch all over the house. So,
but yeah, and then just the little bits of story we got, specifically, obviously with the characters and some of the dungeon origin and stuff like that was really nice. The constant surprise I have with the show, in a good way for sure, is that the amount of detail they just keep adding to just the lore and the characters. Not even so much as the world, but just this dungeon alone. So the writing is really good. So
yeah, it's a much deeper story than the concept lets on.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember when we first started watching it, it was mostly just because it was Trigger, right? But 100%. I had heard someone that I watch say that they were reading the manga and they were loving it, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's good to hear. But then we started watching. I was like, it's fun, but like I don't know if I love it. And then now that we're deeper into it, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
It just needed time to warm up. So, and now there's just so much detail and elements at play that it's a fun adventure for sure.
Best thing about it though is I've watched other things, animes, even TV shows where like I wasn't even sure if I liked it or not until something finally happened. I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to like it. The show never had that. It was always fun.
Yeah.
From the beginning. It just has gotten better. And every episode just makes the show better. Every single episode we've watched so far just keeps enhancing the quality of the whole thing. And I'm just like, this went from like a good anime, like just a fun, cool anime, to like a pretty good anime so far. Like I'm really, really liking it. So it's an interesting build.
I would say the fantasy genre in anime lately has been just killing it. So I'm here for it. It's my favorite genre. So
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it was a really good episode. The cliffhanger is annoying.
Yep.
Because he's going to obviously tell us the story, and they're like, well, that was 24 minutes. See you next week.
No time for you this week. Yep.
So, but anyways, yeah, I loved it. So.
Yeah, I really liked this episode too. Had, like you said, a little bit of everything in it. A lot of comedy, a lot of action, a lot of creativity, which I always expect from the show at this point. Feel kind of spoiled with this show because every episode always has something super creative in it. Had drama. It has world building, and also is deep diving on the characters that we've been watching for a while now, which I'm really enjoying. The beginning was fun, especially seeing Senshi cooking up the whole Senshi breakfast.
Those huge pancakes.
Trying to have that woman retrain her palate, basically, or her taste, because she can't taste anything with the pancakes. I'm glad we got a name for the Mad Mage, because I don't like saying Mad Mage. It just feels so
generic.
So generic, not specific enough. So saying Thistle, I'm like, okay, cool, that's her name. So that's good. Also, we got like a loose, like, wow, they got obsessed with power. That didn't really do much for me because that's not a good like ambition. It's not interesting or relatable, but it is interesting to hear that they were close with everyone at one point before they became obsessed with it. So
yeah, it's interesting that they were just like a kid.
Yeah,
and then they were asked to learn magic, and then that spiraled them down the path they went.
So I'm sure with this show, they're going back to some of the earliest episodes talking about never asking Senshi about himself, but he said this thing that when we watched, we never thought about, but now they're bringing it up. Yeah. I won't be surprised if later we find something out about Thistle, and it makes a lot of things make more sense. So, because the show's got a lot of...
I feel like it's Lio's fault.
Probably something. A lot of things are. So that was interesting. The whole Griffin situation was a lot of fun. At first I'm like, what are we even doing with all this? But it's kind of a catalyst to have this conversation, basically, to learn more about Senshi. But at the same time, also it showed off, more of Marcel's infinite knowledge of weird spells that she probably shouldn't know, but she does. Also, I forgot, there's a past episode where Marcel tried to do something and it came out kind of goofy. I forgot what it was. It's been a couple times now, but her presentation's never that great. And so when she made the familiars, it's funny that hers came out with just like these little doughy, weird things. And
literally a chicken nugget, dude.
With Laios being so obsessed with monsters, basically acting like a kid building like a Gundam set or something. Like he just like, once he got his hands on it, he's like, I want to make it like this and like this. Thought that was really funny. And his came out like super detailed and like nice looking. So, because he's
also, he had so many faces. He had like that real serious expression for a little bit. And then he had like the really plain, dejected, like when she changed his familiar.
Well, yeah, because he went crazy, made the double-headed dragon, something a 12-year-old would think up. And then when she turned into the tube, he was just back there. He's like, stupid. He's just so not into her idea. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. The whole Griffin thing was interesting too, because I'm like, how are they going to fight that thing? They tried a lot of things, but then just took it out of the air and were able to kill it. So that was pretty interesting, because otherwise I don't know how the hell they would have fought it. So, and then seeing Senshi, a different side of Senshi, was interesting as well, because he's always, just kind of blank, or really into food.
And seeing him beardless.
Or, yeah, I was about to say baby Senshi was weird. Yeah. I don't know how old he was there, but he looked like a little kid. It was really weird. Also really cool to see other dwarves of different designs and stuff. That was a lot of fun. It reminded me of Deep Rock Galactic, kind of. But Deep Rock Galactic is just a play off of, dwarves anyway. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, it was just it was interesting to see that, though, because or he also will be a dad randomly, which is really weird, with a dude who is a dad. That's also weird, now that we know that Chilchuk has a family. Hopefully we get more information on that. I'm hoping we get more information on everybody, because I think there's a lot to Laios we don't know about. There's so much little hints to who people think he is, where he came from, who his parents are, all this shit. So there's a lot about him we need to know more on, and I feel like we've probably gotten the most on Marcel.
Probably.
We've got some backstory on her, at least, with like school and stuff like that. So, but
and her relationship with Fallon and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I like that we're exploring that. Hopefully, we get more in the next episode, as the story just started with Senshi. So, but yeah, overall, really good episode. Really liked it. Probably gonna say that for the next couple episodes until the season's over, because there hasn't been a bad episode yet. Yeah. Really, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next episode. Don't know what's going to happen, though, because every single episode of the show, I have no idea where it's going. So, which I like.
Other than deeper.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to keep going wherever they're going, and there's going to be crazy stuff. But, like, I don't know what the next, unless the title says it, but what the next monster is, what the next scenario is. Every episode feels like a new room you're walking in like a D&D campaign. So,
yeah, they really do kind of just give you a suite of fantasy.
Yeah, the variety's crazy. So yeah, really liked it. Anything else?
That's it.
Let us know in the comments, what did you guys think of this episode? What were some of the biggest highlights for you? Things you noticed that maybe we didn't talk about, or something you want to talk about when it comes to this episode that we didn't talk about? Let us know in the comments below. And where do you think things are going from here on out? What do you want to see? Unless you know, please don't tell us. No spoilers, please. We have not read the manga. We want to go in blindly. Thank you. And yeah, stay tuned. We will be reviewing Kaiju number 8, episode 7 or something. I don't remember. 6 or 7? Whatever the newest episodes are, we'll be watching those, reviewing those. So stay tuned for those. And then Demon Slayer. We got to watch the newest episode of that as well, which will be soon. So I've been Seth, this is Chevy. And until then, we will talk to you guys later.